the Taliban's terror government. What does it mean for India? We've got Vivek Karju with us, the former diplomat, somebody who spent, as I mentioned in the past, a career looking at Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I'm sure these developments alarm him a great deal. We're also joined by Dr. Lawrence Sellin. Colonel Sellin has he's a veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us. Ambassador Karju, this is India's worst nightmare. 17 of the 33 ministers in the Taliban cabinet are designated terrorists. Is it time for India to perhaps consider a closer association with Russia, because Russia is maintaining its mission over there? Their national security advisor was in New Delhi.
I think we've already begun an engagement with the Taliban. The Taliban first representative, who is now a deputy foreign minister, had met our ambassador in Doha at our embassy, and clearly that was authorized must have been authorized at the highest level in India.
Right.
This engagement needs to continue. The question of diplomatic recognition as yet is premature, because the government that the Taliban formed, even though they call it a caretaker government, is or consists of persons who attract a great deal of odium in the world, and their past actions also generate consternation. We've got to now see how they operate on the ground. It's not surprising that the Taliban have focused on their Pashtun core. Mm-hmm. They've tried to balance the competing interests of the eastern tribes, the Zadrans, the Haqqanis, and the western tribes, both the Giljai Confederacy and the Durranis. And I dare say this has resulted in their looking only inward. But it's not surprising also that they've not included the Shias. Their contradictions with the Shias go back a long way. It's embedded in their ideology or in their theology,
right,
itself. So we've got to see how this functions, and naturally we should, to answer the question you asked at the beginning, we should be in close consultation with all countries, especially the Russians.
All right. Okay, we're also joined by Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi, the former Ambassador of Pakistan and Executive Director for the Center for International Strategic Studies. Before that, let me go across to Colonel Sellin. About 2 weeks back, Colonel Sellin, people around the world were saying or asking, will this Taliban be any different? Will Taliban 2.0 be more liberal, more sensitive, more secular, more understanding of women and the media, this, that and the other? We've got footage of the media being whipped in Kabul today, women being pushed around, education through curtains, separation of men and women. Is this not the same Taliban which existed 20 years ago?
I think it's roughly the same Taliban that existed 20 years ago. There are three issues that are happening at once now, and the Taliban government that we see retains its fundamentalist and its terrorist roots. It appears that the Taliban government is largely controlled by Pakistan. And the other issue is China taking a strategic advantage of the situation, the power vacuum left by the United States withdrawal. The Taliban prime minister is blacklisted by the United Nations for terrorism. There are 4 members of the new government who are terrorists from the Guantanamo prison. And the brutal terrorist, Shiraz Haqqani, head of the Haqqani network, is interior minister. He's closely tied to both Al-Qaeda and Pakistani intelligence. And the Interior Ministry contains the internal security apparatus, which Pakistan wants to control. And we see the Pakistani military is now assisting the Taliban offensive in the Panjshir against the anti-Taliban National Resistance Front. Now, according to the Pentagon, just in the last 24 hours, they say the Pakistani helicopters and commandos has launched an air assault in the Panjshir Valley Saturday evening. So in the meantime, the Taliban have announced that China will be its main financial backer, that China will exploit Afghanistan's mineral wealth, and that China will be Afghanistan's global route to the global market. So this means that they will join the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And just one more thing, just yesterday, China plans to put economic and military advisors in Bagram Air Base. So these are the issues I think we're addressing, not just the terrorism issue within the Taliban government. Ambassador
Ali Sarwar Naqvi, the fact that Pakistan is so openly engaging with terrorists, what does the world think of Pakistan at this juncture?
The world thinks Pakistan is a responsible state trying to work towards peace and stability in Afghanistan. The Indian narrative.
This is not an Indian narrative, sir.
Oh, yes.
It's a global narrative. Colonel Selin is not an Indian national.
Global narrative is totally different from what you are saying.
Sir, you just heard the previous speaker. You can pick up any newspaper from around the world.
I heard everybody. That doesn't mean anything. The point is, we ourselves have been victims of terrorism. Right. We don't support terror anywhere. We have launched a huge military campaign against terrorism. So the point is, we have to look at each other without this jaundiced view that we seem to have. Now, Taliban went into Kabul without a backing for Kabul, without any resistance.
So when the resistance actually says that the leadership was done by Pakistani intelligence and the Pakistani army, when those who fought in Afghanistan, including Colonel Selin, say, as he's told us in his program in the past, that there was direct involvement of Pakistan, which was always evident, they're making these things up.
How does one individual know what the involvement is? I mean, this is not correct. It is maligning Pakistan.
Colonel Selin, was there any doubt when you were on the ground, boots on the ground in Afghanistan, that you were fighting a force which was assisted by Pakistan, lock, stock and barrel?
No, absolutely. The Taliban would not exist except for Pakistan. The Taliban infrastructure, their recruiting, their training, their hospitalization was done in Pakistan. I have a photograph of a Taliban fighter who was being treated in a hospital in Quetta, and he was being paid by the Pakistan government $82 a day while he was in the hospital. Also, when we were on operations on the Pakistan border, we captured Taliban. Many of these Talibans were Pakistanis, and some were even in the Pakistani military. So you can't tell me that Pakistan is not the epicenter of terrorism in South Asia. If you look at the situation in Afghanistan now, you have the Taliban, you have the Khani network, you have the Islamic State of Khorasan, and all these entities either were created or have been supported in the past by Pakistan, and that includes Al-Qaeda, which is back in Afghanistan, who had sanctuary in Pakistan all these years.
All right, Ambassador Kaju, last word to you. I'm running short on time. Go ahead, sir. 30 seconds.
There is no doubt of Pakistan's nexus with the Taliban. I think it's blindingly obvious. My second point is the Taliban and the Pakistanis have succeeded militarily. That is a fact no one can deny. It is the onus now rests squarely with Pakistan to ensure that Afghanistan carries on in a responsible manner, that the Taliban act responsibly. Pakistan is central to this whole process, and it cannot deny its responsibility. It will be held accountable, completely accountable by the international community. This is now, for the time being, a Pakistan project, and we'll see how Pakistan acts. In time, I have no doubt that the Pashtun will act independently, but for the time being, the Pakistanis will control, and the DG ISI's presence in Kabul, not the foreign secretary.
Right. No, I note that it is the ISI chief who was present. Yeah. All right, Ambassador, I just need to interrupt because I'm out of time. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.